So before I start this video, I just want to point out, I burnt the roof of my mouth. It hurts. Jojo review! So we continue the fight between Narancia and Formaggio. Classic well done Jojo fight, of course, but it's not quite over yet. I was expecting this fight to actually be relatively quick, wrapped up in one episode, but instead we got a little bit of backstory behind Formaggio and his little team who are after the boss. You know, they're the bad guys who are after the boss. Probably planning to kill the boss's daughter in front of him. Like the whole sorbet and gelato tragic story. I am 100% convinced that yes, we should kill this boss. After seeing that story, I'm like, fuck him. Just throw him off a cliff. So where we last left off, Narancia is shrinking, and it actually has to do with the cut on his cheek. Anything that he cuts, he can choose to shrink. And while Narancia is shrinking, he's starting to notice that his shoe that fell off of him actually is staying the same size. And his knife, he picks up his knife, and that's still the same size, but he's shrinking. The reason for this is because these parts of him were like detached from his body when the shrinking began. So anything that wasn't actually attached to his body won't shrink, it'll stay the same size. And it's kind of funny, at first when he notices it, he thinks, oh, this isn't my knife is smaller than this. This isn't my car is smaller than this. You know, it doesn't really occur to him that he's shrinking and everything's getting bigger. And Formaggio's response to this is like, seriously? But actually, the way that Narancia handles himself in this episode, he's pretty smart. He's actually pretty smart in combat. So, once he figures out he's shrinking, he knows that he has to get to a phone and he has to call for help. Goes to a payphone, you know, and Formaggio's like, idiot, your money's in your pocket. It's been shrinking this whole time, and the payphone requires coins of normal size. And of course, Narancia just shoots open a payphone and all the money spills out, and he uses that to call Formaggio, you know. He just cuts the lines of all the phones. So Formaggio is getting really comfortable in his pocket, you know. He's like, all I have to do is just wait here until he shrinks down into nothing. And then he sees Aerosmith come by the pocket, and he doesn't really think anything of it. But then Narancia knows that he's in his pocket, grabs him, and he's like, how did he know? How did he know where I was? And he actually has like a pen, one of these types pens in his hand that has been shrunk. So to get away before, you know, Narancia kills him, he actually turns the pen normal size, and it shoots him forward, and it like sticks into Narancia's hand and he starts bleeding. He's like, ah! So Formaggio keeps on trying to hide, and he's running from Aerosmith, and Aerosmith keeps on finding him. But before we actually figure out how he keeps on finding him with his stand ability, we cut back to Formaggio 2 years beforehand, and we kind of get introduced to his whole little team. Now, when we first start off this flashback, they're in the middle of an assassination, basically. So Formaggio shrunk this car all the way down to like an itty-bitty little size that you can't really see, somewhat microscopic, and he just like plops it in this dude's drink. And immediately when I saw that, I was like, ah, that's dark. That's a over-the-top way to assassinate someone. Granted, it'll get the job done, but, you know, like, ugh. Here I was thinking that was dark. I didn't even get to the whole sorbet and gelato tragedy that happens in this flashback. So the whole team's together, and we kind of see like the leader, I guess, per se, and he notices, hey, where's sorbet and gelato? And apparently they're like a couple who are inseparable. So Formaggio does some investigating. He goes to the house and he realizes that gelato has suffocated on the ground. There's blood everywhere, but we don't actually know where sorbet's corpse is. Later on, a bunch of packages with no sender name are sent at their door. And they open them up and find that it's all frames, and each of the frames has a little itty-bitty piece of body parts in it. And they find when they stack all those frames together that it's all Sorbet's body. He was hacked from his toes all the way up to his head alive, while Gelato watched and suffocated in the corner. And this was done as a warning to them because they were trying to figure out the boss's identity. They were trying to overthrow the boss, and I guess he found out, hey, stop it. Stop doing that. After that, their leader is like, hey, look guys, we gotta stay away. We gotta stay away from the boss. You saw what happened to Sorbet and Gelato. We should just forget about this. And for a while, they did forget about it, until they found out that the boss had a daughter. So I'm guessing that they want to do a little revenge scheme here. I'm guessing that they probably want to kill the daughter and kill the boss. And, well, obviously they want to get information out of the daughter, but they don't know that the daughter actually has no information. Trish has no information. And my guess, if they do find out the boss, and if they do capture Trish, they're probably gonna kill them both. But I like Trish. I mean, sure, kill the boss. He doesn't seem like that great a fellow. But Trish is cool! So Formaggio notices that Aerosmith is shooting rats. And he's like, what? Why is it shooting rats? And he holds his breath, and he notices that Aerosmith goes right by him. So he's like, oh, it's breathing. CO2. That's how Aerosmith is tracking me down. So it's pretty clever. So he goes up to all these other rats, and he climbs on top of one, and you know, there's a whole herd of rats just going forward. Aerosmith, of course, can't really distinguish one from another, and that's when Narancia realizes Formaggio kind of gets a cheap shot on Aerosmith, which hurts Narancia in the process. But he realizes that one of the rats is breathing a little bit weirdly, as if there's something on its back. So he shoots down that rat, and shoots down Formaggio in the process. But right before the shots actually hit him, he turns to normal size, and the shots don't actually go as deep or do as much damage as they would have if he stayed smaller size. So Narancia is in a bit of a pickle. He's thinking to himself, oh man, Aerosmith is not doing as much damage as it could be doing if I was normal size. By me shrinking, Aerosmith's power is also shrinking. So now that he's normal size, my attacks won't do anything to him. Of course, Narancia is going to keep on shrinking if he doesn't stop Formaggio, or if he doesn't knock him out or kill him or do what he needs to do. So, not over yet. Formaggio is not going to get away, you know, because I don't really see Narancia dying, but I don't really know what he has to do in order to actually provide some damage on Formaggio. I mean, I imagine that his bombs do more damage, but even if their power has also shrank and they're just not going to do that much, then, you know. So, that is a complete review, everything that you need to know about this JoJo episode, basically. We got introduced, basically, to Formaggio's whole entire team. So we already know who we're going to be fighting in the future, and I believe we got all of their names? I don't think we got the leader's name. I don't know if we got the leader's name. But they were showing us, you know, brief flashes of all of their names, and you heard some of their names in conversation. They all look like interesting characters. I think Maloney has a foot fetish. But we'll get there when we get there. Remember to like the video, comment below what you think, no spoilers, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye! Program restart.